My name is Heather Wokusch, and thank you so much for joining us. You know, it's ironic that while over 110,000 Americans of Japanese descent were put into internment camps, during World War II, another roughly 33,000 Americans of Japanese descent were actively serving in the military, in the U.S. military, and I should mention in segregated units. That's something that we don't really talk about so much in this country, and something that is very important to talk about. We are thrilled today to be joined by one of these veterans. This is Mr. Kazuo Yamaguchi. And there were different battalions that served different areas. Mr. Yamaguchi was actually in the U.S. military intelligence services. He was a language specialist. So today we're going to discuss the war. We're going to discuss what it was like to return home after it ended. And we're going to discuss the fight to get recognized for their service and, the contributions of these service members acknowledged. So thank you so much for joining us. We really, really, really appreciate it. Now, you were born and raised New York. Can you tell us what it was like, your first maybe 17 years?
I was born in Long Island City Hospital, and I grew up in Ozone Park, Queens. And most of my classmates and friends later on were Italian Americans, second generation Americans like myself. So I had very little association because of the lack of any other Japanese Americans in the area that I grew up. And since my family was the only Japanese, I guess I thought I was Italian. We are a product of our environment. Yeah. So I didn't think that I was different. Mm-hmm. And maybe in many ways I was very lucky in that they didn't treat me differently. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They got to know me as me. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, that's the way everybody grows up. Mm-hmm. So in many ways I was very lucky. Mm-hmm. And I developed many very close friendships with them. And sadly, because of my age, none of them are left. And I wish they were still around. I really miss them.
Once the war started, and then you were 18, I believe, when you entered the Army, then everything changed really, really, really quickly for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Growing up where I did, I wasn't aware of how our government treated ethnic Japanese. Mm-hmm. And until I got drafted, and then was put into the U.S. Army. Oh, by the way, I was very, very, excuse the language, pissed off that they put me in the Army. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be an Air Corps pilot, and I would have been one hell of a pilot.
Okay.
And when they said no, I said, well, how about the Navy? No. What about the Marines? No. So my attitude then was, the hell with you. I don't want the Army.
Okay.
Guess what? I got drafted.
Yeah.
And it was very confusing because of what the Washington was going through. They couldn't quite make up their mind. Do we want Japs in the Army? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? And then later on, I understood that those Japanese Americans, Niseis, who was in ROTC, were declassified from 1A to 4C in order to get them out of OCS, officers training in college.
Okay.
I was in OCS in my freshman year, and that's why I was surprised when I was classified from 1A to 4C. I didn't realize until later why they did that. They didn't want any Japs officers in the Army.
Okay.
But thank God I found out about that many years later, because I would have really been pissed. But anyway, they finally got it straightened out. Mm-hmm. And to my ignorance, I didn't find out I was in a segregated unit until From Fort Dix, they sent me down to Florida, basic training. And when I got down there, I said, holy mackerel, they all look like me.
So that's the first time in your life you had been surrounded by so many Americans of Japanese descent.
Right.
Yeah.
And the shock was that, God damn it, they put me in a segregated unit. How stupidly naive I was.
Who knew?
That's right.
And at this time, you had no idea that they had these internment camps going on.
Nope, I heard bits and pieces, but it didn't register. I had no idea.
So how did you actually learn about that?
Well, I learned it the hard way. Now I'm in the infantry, segregated unit, and now we're out there marching. So I'm still resentful that they put me in a segregated unit. I belong in the Air Corps. What? Well, here I am. I'm stuck. So one day, we're marching, and then forced march, and I got water blisters, then blood blisters, then hamburger. So now we stopped to take a break, and I said, oh man, this is crazy. So after the break was over, okay, fall in. And I said to myself, no, I'm going to wait for the meat wagon.
And the meat wagon is?
Ambulance.
Ambulance,
right.
Okay.
To take me to get, So I'm sitting down, laying against a tree or something, and I said, hey guys, I'm going to wait for the meat wagon. So two of the guys in my platoon comes over to me and say, hey, Kaz, get up. I said, leave me alone. I'm going to wait for the meat wagon. Hey, get up, God damn it, nobody drops out. I said, so? Then I look and I see two more. Hey, Yamaguchi, get up, nobody falls out. I said, I don't give a damn, I'm waiting for the meat wagon. Now, you either get up or we're going to beat the hell out of you. And I'm going, what the hell's the matter with you guys? Nobody falls out. We're going to show Whitey we are as good and better than them. And you're not going to fall out and put a bad mark on our company. I said, I don't give a damn. They said, okay, you don't give a damn? Now they're going to beat me up. And I'm going, God almighty, what's the matter? These guys are nuts. So I said, okay. I jumped up, I put my bayonet on my M1. I said, all right, you guys are crazy. I'll tell you how crazy I am. Come on. Guaranteed I'll get two of you before you get me. So they pulled back and they said, I told you that asshole from New York, he's a wise guy. And I'm saying to myself, what does that mean? I'm from New York, so what? So then they said, all right, Yamaguchi, you're going to march with us. I said, okay. I'll carry your rifle. I'll carry your knapsack. I said, go to hell. Nobody carries any for me. I'll carry my own. You can all go to hell. So then we come back to our company area, and now we had supper, and then we go back to our huts. It was a 5-man hut. But I started to say, what's the matter? Nobody talks to me. Nobody wants anything to do with me. And I'm saying to myself, what the hell's the matter with me? I realize I'm a pariah.
Okay.
I'm a traitor.
Because?
Right? My attitude. So now we're in our hut. There's 4 of them from, I think, 3 of them were from the camps. And they're talking about...
The internment camps.
Internment camp.
Yeah.
Well, we call it concentration camps.
Exactly.
So I hear them talking about, oh yeah, I got a letter from home. Oh, where are you from? Oh, Roa. And the guy saying, you home? I said, oh yeah, I heard from my mom too. Where are you from? Jerome. And I'm going, oh, Roa? Jerome? Hey guys, I thought you were from California. They all look at me like, what do you mean? I said, I thought you were from California. Yes, we are. But you just said you were from Jerome and you're from Roa. That's not California. He said, you don't know? I go, no, what? Then they said, oh.
And then they told you.
Then they told me what happened. I go, wow. Wow. I said, you're pulling my leg. No, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started to tell me what happened.
Mm-hmm. How was that for you? You were 18, and then you suddenly learned that this America that you had thought was the same everywhere was not, and people were put into concentration camps, people of your ethnic background. What was that like for you?
That's how ignorant I was. And when they told me that, I go, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if they did that to me and my family, I wouldn't have dropped out.
You wouldn't have dropped out?
From watching.
Okay.
I said, now I understand why you threatened to beat me up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I deserve to be beat up because what? I didn't know. I said, nobody has to make me march now.
Okay.
I was more in shock. I said, my country did this?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, whether I like it or not, I'm one of them. So it was a rude awakening, but it really made me understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah. And then you could say it possibly got even stranger because then you were sent to Japan,
Oh, yeah. When I finished basic training, in fact, they cut our training short by 2 weeks because later I found out we were replacement for the 442nd Regimental Combat Team because they were expendable.
Okay.
They were taking terrific losses.
Okay.
Because, hey, go. So for some reason, me and another Nisei, we were cut out of the group that we trained with. And now we were told, you're going to MISLS. And I looked at him, I said, what the heck is MISLS? And you don't know? I said, no. It's Military Intelligence Language School. I said, so what the hell are you sending me there for? He said, you're going to learn to speak and read and write Japanese? I said, you got to be kidding. I said, don't joke around. He says, nobody's joking. So later on I figured, well, they must be hard up getting recruits. So I said, what the hell did they have to recruit me for? Ended up in MISLS. I guess it may have saved my life.
Possibly. Maybe right now is a good time to let people know first what a Nisei is. You've been using that term.
Yeah, a Nisei is a second generation. The first generation being our immigrant parents.
Okay.
We are the second generation in America.
Okay.
And Nisei means American Japanese, born of immigrant Japanese parents.
Okay, perfect.
So we refer to ourselves as Niseis.
November 4th, here in New York, November 4th, 2012, there's going to be another celebration.
In the ethnic community, they are going to honor us
Yeah.
by giving us a luncheon. And, well, I'm honored.
Yeah.
But also, I'm saddened because I don't think there's going to be 3 or 4 of us left that's going to be there.
Some of these segregated units, you referred to some of them. So one was the 442nd.
And the 100th Battalion.
Okay. And those were these active, fighting units.
They were in the
just-
infantry.
Yeah, exactly. And
Right.
they took incredible losses, and they were arguably the best soldiers that the
Heather, they were not arguably. They were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
They are, to this day, the most decorated unit of its size and length of service in the history of American military history. But, big deal, they paid a hell of a price in blood and dying.
Absolutely. And then you were sent to the MISLS, but
Yes.
I would like if you could share, you almost didn't come today to be interviewed, and it's because of that issue. Because of the
Yes,
issue.
I didn't want to be thought of as, I was part of the Niseis that made such a great name for themselves. In many ways, I was lucky I didn't serve with the 442nd 100th Battalion. Maybe if I did, I wouldn't be here. 3 of the guys that I took basic training with, who I got to know, didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So very possibly I would have been one of them. So instead, I was sent to MISLS and ended up in MIS and served briefly in the Philippines and then assigned to the occupation of Japan. And I was a language specialist, only to this extent. Reading and writing I couldn't stand. So and when it came to translation, forget it. But I became really good in speaking Japanese.
Okay.
So in that sense, I was basically used as an interpreter or interrogator.
Okay.
So that was my job.
But also how unusual that must have been, because basically you grew up Italian and then all of a sudden you're in this country, but your own country is occupying that country. I mean, what a confusing set of things going on there.
In many ways, once I got to the occupation, we landed in Yokohama.
Okay.
I couldn't believe what I saw.
What did you see?
Black. In our training in MISLS, they showed us pictures of what Yokohama looked like, Tokyo looks like, and this is pre-war.
Pre-war.
Right.
Okay.
And it was like really built up modern cities, but really congested. And I said, well, when we shipped out of the Philippines, so you're going to go to the occupation. I said, okay. Yokohama wasn't what I saw in the pictures.
Okay.
There was nothing left. It was just burnt. All I saw was brick walls, cement walls, and this and that, but no houses. And I go, this is Yokohama? Wow. So then we took the train from Yokohama to Tokyo. I don't know, that's about 35, 40 miles. And I'm looking out the window. Mile after mile after mile, there's nothing left. Now we get to Tokyo. I figure, there's nothing left in Tokyo. Only what they call the Marunouchi, where the modern steel and concrete buildings were, where the Imperial Palace was. And later on, I realized that our B-29s with their northern bomb sights were so good, they saved what we would need in the occupation. But they carpet bombed the rest of Tokyo.
And how was that for you? Again, you were 18 and you're just seeing this kind of death and destruction and people suffering for the first time.
Initially, it was like, holy crap, wow. Hell, they didn't leave much. That's what it was. But later on, I had to learn and had to deal with the Japanese. Now, it's getting to be end of October, November. It's getting cold. Now, walk into my office, I used to see these people. Overnight, they would fall death, malnutrition, starvation, disease. And I would see what we call a meat wagon. They would be taking these people off to be whatever. And it was old men, women, and children. Then I started to notice children wandering around. They were in rags. And I said, who's taking care of them? So my other fellow Nisei said, hey, no, let's do something with these kids. 4, 5, 6 years old. I wonder who's taking care of them. We brought them into our quarters at the old NYK building. That was called the Nippon Yusen Kaisha. It was their major shipping company. And that became our headquarters for MIS. And that was our living quarters as well as our offices and whatnot. So we started to bring these kids in. These kids were in total shock. Post-traumatic. They would hardly talk. When we brought them into our quarters, we threw them in the shower. They were loaded with lice. And They were in real terrible shape. And we would clean them up, shower, cut our uniforms off, and redress them. And we made space for them to stay. And then we would sneak extra food out of the dining hall, and we were feeding these kids. And then one day, at the exit of our dining hall, we see this white MP, and he was telling us, "Sorry guys, you can't take out the food." So why not? Why not? I have orders not to let you do that. So most of us told that poor MP kid, "Go to hell. You're going to stop us? Go ahead." And the MP, he didn't want to do what he was doing, but he was orders. So anyway, now we get orders from upstairs. "You will not give aid and comfort to the enemy.
Yeah.
Stop doing what you're doing." And I guess to a man we said, "What the hell are you talking about? These kids are enemies?" No, really, we were like, "What the hell's the matter with you people?
Yeah.
These kids is dropping dead and starving to death."
So, I mean, such a confusing time again.
Right.
And you also, as I recall, were an interpreter going to, Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the bomb had dropped.
Oh, God, yeah. I got stuck accompanying a bunch of Air Corps medics. And I realized they were only interested in the effect of the radiation.
So they weren't there to actually help people. They just wanted to kind of test
Help?
people.
Hell no. Hell no. We were I don't remember the name of the hospital, St. Luke's, I think it was. So my job was to interpret the question to the survivors. So where were you when the bomb fell? What kind of food were you eating? How do you feel today? When did you start feeling the effects? And they didn't use the word radiation. So I asked, I found out what the word for radiation was. And I said, okay. So one time we're asking this little girl, she must have been 8 or 9. And her first name was the same as my kid sister's, Yuriko. Because I would ask their name and I would write it down in English. And she heard me interpreting, and she said to me in Japanese, "Mr. Soldier, help me."
Oh.
God.
Yeah.
She was just covered with staph infection.
Yeah.
And I knew that she wasn't going to live.
So, I mean, just the horrific experiences that you had. But it's just so important that we learn, what you experienced and everything. And what I think is very interesting is it took until November 2011 for you guys to receive congressional medals. Is that correct? So it was last year.
Oh, last year. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, well...
So your service was not acknowledged, to a very large extent.
Well, nationally, it was the first time that our government, meaning the Senate, the House, and the President, signed this bill that was passed unanimously in the House and the Senate, and President Obama signed it, to award all Niseis that served in World War II. They honored us by presenting us with the Congressional Gold Medal. Up to that time, there were only 2 other units that were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Now, I would like to emphasize, Congressional Gold Medal was not executive order, it was a bill that was passed and voted on by both houses, and both houses signed it unanimously to award all Niseis the Congressional Gold Medal for their service during World War II. Of course, it was 67 years later, and the other 2 units that were awarded were, and interestingly enough, they were minority. The first was the Tuskegee Airmen,
Okay.
African American air fighter pilots. The second was the Navajo Code Talkers, both minorities. And then I guess they felt guilty, so they said, well, how about the Japanese Americans? So they said, okay. 67 years later.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be that cynical, but when I went there, it was 3 days. And I was very proud to be amongst my peers. And luckily my daughter went with me. So now on the second day, we're being acclaimed and honored. Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, 4-star General, Congressman, Senator, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're telling us how great we were. And I'm sitting down listening to this crap, and I'm saying to myself, big deal. I almost was going to get up and tell them, what the hell took you so goddamn long? And my daughter grabs me, sit down, Dad. Thank God she did. Thank God she did. I would have dishonored all of us. But
It was 67 years is a bit long. I mean, it can be said.
there wasn't quite 400 of us
Wasn't quite 400.
that was able to be there.
Yeah, man.
And one of the guys died the next morning.
No.
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
But I say to
wow.
myself, thank God he was able to be there.
What would you like to share with other people if you have one message that you would like to share?
That we don't repeat what we did.
Okay.